You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built for us.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at Marines.com.
You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show, the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers. What do we have, you might ask? Well, we got Jersey Mike.
I lied. By the way, Jersey Mike again.
Howdy.
Yeah, I'm horrible at this. I can't stop.
Right.
Just thinking about Kyle, hearing Kyle's voice is just annoying me. I'm kidding. I love you, Kyle. But I wanted to talk about something that I noticed that we haven't really, been talking about too much.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Jacobs.
Oh, yeah, Josh.
I have a feeling, feeling about Josh Jacobs that there's something here that we're not fully understanding, right? They paid Josh Jacobs a good amount of money, but they didn't pay him like, dude, you're the guy forever money. The whole drafting of Marshawn Lloyd, continuing to have A.J. Dillon, thinking about putting him in that H-back role possibly. There's something that I think that we're truly missing here. Josh Jacobs, while he's the guy, is going to be expected to share this backfield. But at the same time, he's going to do more work. And I say it like this. You're going to have your three-headed dragon. Dillon is going to be in the H-back at times if that happens. And you're going to have to worry about Dillon and Lloyd or Dillon and Jones. Or Jacobs, Jacobs. And at that point, which is what I was always, stressing to LaFleur, is that you need to worry about getting Dillon and Jones on the field at the same time in that split back role and shotgun. But I never thought about that in the H-back role. And, Dillon on a wheel route sounds dirty enough, but, Dillon's faking a wheel route to then a fake screen to Jones on the opposite side with, one or two blockers in front of him. And Jones knows how to make it work in space, and he's got some wheels, and he hits hard. And the longer it goes on, Jacobs, sorry, I don't even know if I said it. Jacobs is going to be wearing defenses down. Lloyd is going to be wearing defenses down. And then think about A.J. Dillon after defenses are worn down on the goal line in an H-back role. Oh, my guys, my Packers fans, I don't think we understand how dangerous our running backs are. Our backfield is. This could arguably the most dangerous backfield we've ever seen in Packers history. If Jacobs is even, three-quarters of what he was, we're talking greatness. Come on, let's get excited about that. Go Pack, go.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it. I think, again, and we talked about it several times, but the issue with Aaron Jones, despite fans saying just put him on the field more, the Packers said, no, we can't. Maybe that was wrong, I don't know. But they said, no, we can't. He's not built for that. We would love to, because there's no doubt the guy was a difference maker. There's no doubt the offense was better with him on it. No, he did not drag the entire 2023 team. Just putting that caveat in there. But the Packers now have an opportunity to take a guy and say, you know what, we want to give you 20 carries as opposed to, 13, 14, or we want to give you 22 or 25 or 30 on occasion. With Aaron Jones, it was like the scale was between 12 and maybe 25 as we got closer to the postseason or in the postseason when we're like, screw it, we got to go balls to the wall, right? I think with Josh Jacobs, you're looking at, 18 to 30. And you're right, they have A.J. Dillon as that complement to be able to spell him because although his body can take a beating, dude gets tired, But so does the defense. And so, yeah, I think that is kind of the vision. We got these big guys that are durable, that we can put more on their shoulders. Because really, if you think about it, let's say Josh Jacobs is not as good as Aaron Jones, which is debatable, but let's say that that's fine because we saw a longer track record with Jones than we've seen with Jacobs. But let's say Jacobs is only 80%. He's only 80%, but he's carrying the ball, let's say, 5 more times per game, and he's generally playing 2 to 3 more games per year. The overall value output is going to be higher in the direction of Josh Jacobs, even if he's not as good on a snap-to-snap basis. And I think that's a big part of the thought process of getting these bigger backs as opposed to smaller guys, because it's like he's small and he's really good, but if you can only use him 10 times, it's not as beneficial. And you see the Detroit Lions in a similar situation where they've got a guy that they love, and the entire national media is like, you got to give him the ball. You got to give him the ball. And the question is, will they, talking about Jahmyr Gibbs here, will they give into that temptation and say, this guy's a difference maker, he's a game breaker, he's one of the top running backs in the NFL already in regard to guys that can break one on any given snap? I don't know if they're going to or not. He's 5'9", 200 pounds, which is around what Aaron Jones was. Jones is actually a little bit bigger. Or do you handle it the same way? You say, Jahmyr Gibbs is great. We want to use him as much as possible, but we need to preserve him. So David Montgomery is still going to continue to have a pretty large role, and it's going to be closer to a 50-50 share, or maybe a little bit more Jahmyr or a little bit Montgomery, whatever. That's the problem. It's also a problem when you take a guy in the first round. Because I'm sorry, as much as I understand what the Packers did and why, and they may have been right, I don't know. If you're going to take a guy in the first round, especially early first round, he better be somebody that can run the ball 20 times a game if you need him to. If he's not, you just became a much bigger idiot than you already were for taking a running back. But anyways, Packers don't need to worry about that because they got now 3 guys that can handle it, right? Because we got Josh Jacobs, we got Dillon, and we got Marshawn Lloyd, who's another pretty big dude. He's 5'9", similar to Gibbs, but he's 220 pounds. He's 220 pounds, by the way, and of the top 3 running backs, he's the smallest. Josh Jacobs is like 223. Dillon is like friggin' 250. So, yeah, I mean, depending on where Marshawn Lloyd is at and how Dillon looks kind of coming back, if he has a little bit of a rebound year or whatever, the bottom line is they can do whatever they want. If you got one guy that's a dominant player, you can give him the ball 25 times. If you've got 2 to 3 guys, you might be able to give Josh Jacobs the ball 22 times if you want, but it's not necessary because then we never see Lloyd or Dillon. So you end up in a situation where it's like 15 for Jacobs, 15 for Lloyd, and 6 for Dillon, and we still ran the ball a crap ton of times while not really putting a heavy load on anybody. And yeah, to your point, just beating the living crap out of defenses who are having to deal with these just monstrosities of human beings that are just continually wearing you down.
Hey, Ryan, Dan from Indy.
Hey.
So who would have freaking thought that Jared Goff was going to be the one getting the contract done first? 4 years, $212 million. That's 53 on average. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Jordan's going to be getting paid more than that. I don't know. We'll see. I'll leave that up to you to discuss. Bah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different variables. Some are in Jordan's favor, some are in Goff's favor. It's just kind of a question of which way you lean. I don't know that it's a guarantee. I think you could certainly make a case that he would be deserving, that, Jordan Love should get more. He has a higher ceiling. I think he showed more. He's younger, et cetera, et cetera. But first of all, Goff is not that old. I keep thinking Goff is like near retirement. He's like 30. So he could have 10 more years in the league, so that's not really an issue. Goff took the Lions to the playoffs for the first time in, let's just call it forever. They were actually able to win, and a large part of their success was because of Goff. So he is a guy that they have now established can get us to and through the Super Bowl, and they want a piece of that. So everything's there, and he doesn't have a lot of the question marks that Jordan Love has in terms of, well, we saw like a half a good year out of you, and there's a lot there where you kind of wonder if they might be shooting for a shorter length contract for a little bit less money, but still a big contract. Let's say a 4-year contract that's closer to an actual 2-year contract that gives Love a little bit of negotiating power to get a new contract if need be. They could do an early extension, for example, after 2 years to kind of get him his new money. And you can structure it that way in that the cap hit really starts to hurt, to where it's actually beneficial for the Packers to be like, all right, let's get him a little bit more money, and then we can spread it out and restructure it a little bit in a way that kind of makes more sense. Just stuff like that, to where we're going to put a bunch of money in your pocket so that you're set for life, but also let's just see how this goes. And you can get that big mega contract, probably closer to $60 million, if you can just keep this up for like 2 more years. But again, in the meantime, it's going to be a lesser contract. It could be, 45 to 49, somewhere in that range. I don't know that. It could be 55. I don't know. That's kind of the interesting thing about it. And part of it is, again, there's so many considerations. It's not just a simple matter of who's a better quarterback. And even that is a difficult question when you look at Goff and Love. Again, I don't want to change. I would not swap where we're at. But it's not a very cut and dry thing. And then even if we could come up with that answer, there's a lot of other considerations. And of course, there's like the way that the contracts are structured is always like there's what we think is going to happen. Then there's what we immediately hear happens. And we all go, whoa, either that's the craziest thing ever, or that's too much, or not. And then there's more details. Like with Elton Jenkins, it was like, holy crap, that's a small amount of money. And then you come to find out that it was because they paid him as a guard, and that it actually does go up if he becomes a tackle, stuff like that. And, was it Josh Jacobs? It's like, oh man, look at this contract. And then it turns out when you look at it, it's really closer to a 1-year contract. So there's the expectation, then there's like the big numbers that get shot out. And then when you really dig into the numbers, you kind of get a clearer picture. When you look at the guaranteed money, you look at the way that it's structured, you look at the bonuses, and you look at all that, you kind of get a clearer picture of here's how many actual years, how much he's going to be making now and over the course of this. And then, again, a lot of times the contract will kind of speak to you in terms of, for example, the Josh Jacobs thing. There's nothing explicit in the contract that says it, but it appears to me to be sort of a 1-year contract where you're going to see how it goes. And if he's dominant, you just ride it out. You continue to pay him, even though the guarantees are pretty well dried up. You give him his salary, et cetera, et cetera. If not, year 2, it might be a little painful, but if it's awful, you can move off of it. Otherwise, you give him 1 more year. And then in year 3, if it's still not great, there is a no pain move on thing. And then, again, also we have a running back. If he ends up being a stud, maybe we don't want to continue paying Jacobs. So there's kind of little messages throughout. And it might kind of help to paint a picture of where exactly Jordan and his agent are at and where the Packers are at and how they tried to bridge that gap. Because, again, I paint it to be very adversarial because to a degree it is. It's negotiation. You got to be a tough guy and posture and do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, Jordan wants to be a Packer. He wants to stay here. And the Packers want to pay him a lot of money because he's earned it, because he deserves it, and because they want him to be that dude. So posturing aside, everybody wants this. It's just a matter of, how can we kind of bridge the gap between some of our questions?
Damn it, Ryan, it's all your fault. You told me nobody was calling, and now this is the 4th or 5th call in a row.
Sorry. Why am I
have had so many things I wanted to talk about. I've just been so busy. But I wanted to talk about the Wonderlic score thing and just the, knowledge testing or education testing in the NFL. So I wanted to give you a little bit of insight into at least my experience in this. Number one, I am an ENTP. They like to call me the debater. I'll argue anything, even if I know it's wrong, just to prove a point.
Sure.
Because it's fun like that. But when I was younger, I think this is going to sound crazy to some people. I think I was in first grade, and my first grade teacher would get mad at me all the time. I think I was reading like Harry Potter, or I forget what book was out by then. It was like the second or third Harry Potter book, and I was reading it, when I was in first grade, and I just wouldn't pay attention in school to any of the stuff I was being taught because it was just worthless to me,
Sure.
honestly. So my teacher got very upset, told my parents that I was a problem in the classroom and that I needed to go, to a doctor or something. Somebody needed to check me out because there's something wrong with me. So that's what they did. They very much so sent me to the doctor, my parents, at the behest of my teacher. And they did some testing on me, some IQ testing, some other things to see what was going on with me. They tried to diagnose me, ADHD and say a bunch of stuff. And that's all hoopla garbage, honestly. It's just made up stuff. But anyway, the point of this is they also did an IQ test on me. And I believe I scored somewhere from 140 to 150, which is pretty darn high. I believe it's genius or at the low end of genius level IQ. But I want to say this. I don't believe I'm a genius. And there's a reason for this. I think geniuses are very well studied in their fields. They strive to become the most knowledgeable, the best, of the best. And those are the kinds of guys that are geniuses in my opinion. No, IQ to me is critical thinking ability. And the ability to think critically fast. So most of the testing was, trying to see if I could put, a square in a circle hole or figure out all these pieces together. It's like one giant puzzle. I'm going to call back real quick because this is kind of in depth and you should probably make this, a separate call. Hold on.
Sure.
Hey, Jersey Mike again. So, this whole test essentially was just figuring out like Sudoku puzzles or, you've got an object in a tree and you got to figure out how to get it down and you got a picture and you got to figure out which object is the fastest way to get it out of the tree or something, whatever the heck. There's like all these little tiny critical thinking tests. And IQ is essentially your ability to decipher information and to elicit a response to that information that would solve the problem. And it also generally, I know there is some inference or some variation depending on how you come to the solution to the problem. And that's where my problem is. See, if I was very educated and went through a lot of school, maybe I'd be a genius. But I'm not. I dropped out of school. There was no point in it for me. I wasn't seeking anything. And I decided to go into a more technical background, with, maintenance, framing, all these kinds of things. Or like any kind of construction or working on anything that you can imagine, I could probably do it up until like a rocket engine. And then if you taught me how to work on a rocket engine, I could learn that. And it's been my understanding that with a high IQ, essentially what the benefit is that I can learn anything that's put in front of me. I just have to care enough about it personally to learn it. So IQ testing in the NFL, in my opinion, is extremely important, especially at positions like running back, linebacker, safety, quarterback, right? Like these guys have to know everything that's going on the field at all times to be able to react to it extremely quickly. And then, not only then, they have to be able to see something and then react to it. And remember, I think I'm pretty sure humans only see light in like 60 frames per second. And so there's certain things that you can't react to because your brain isn't fast enough. I think it takes like, I forget the number, but there's something when shooters use this. There's a reaction time to stimuli, and that reaction time I think is like a 1/10 or 2/10 of a second or 100th of a second, something like that. But You have to be able to process that information, see the information, then process it, and then send the signal back to your body part to do it, and then do it. It takes some time for these things to happen. So having that high IQ and the ability to make critical decisions rapidly, yeah, that's where we need intelligence testing in the NFL. Anyway, go Pack, go.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff said. I think IQ is important, IQ or whatever other kinds of tests you would prefer, because it relates to sort of visual, spatial ability to, as you said, in a very toned down sense, the ability to take the triangle piece and put it in the triangle hole, but extrapolate that out and up, right? Now, I think people get upset because IQ is tied to, just general intelligence. And if you have a low IQ, you're just this big, dumb idiot. And if you have a high, like you said, I think it was very well said about being a genius. It's kind of a silly term. I mean, maybe in a certain sense you could be, right? The ability to, so for example, if you have a high IQ, you're probably going to be able to get through like engineering school. And if you have a low IQ, you will not be able to. That's just factual. It's not going to happen because your brain can't figure it out. It can't do it. Then again, high IQ, there's a whole bunch of gray area in between in terms of but how much work is it going to require for you to learn it? Super high IQ, it's just your brain just gets it, right? But there's a whole lot of things that it doesn't test for, like you mentioned, knowledge. Knowledge is just the quantity of stuff. Your IQ is sort of your ability to process it. And then that also leaves out wisdom, which is also a part of the processing thing. Like you can get a bunch of garbage information and process it and go and try to use that and fail because you don't have the wisdom to discern what is good and bad information. So there's a whole bunch of stuff outside of that, which is immaterial to what we're even talking about. It has no bearing on anything other than to say people who are overly sensitive about this need to just chill out. It's not that big of a deal. But it is important, and it is real. It's a hard science, not a soft science. This is 100% verifiable and verified information. This isn't even debatable. And again, it is going to be important. To what degree and how to use it and all that kind of stuff, yeah, it's of course it's important. Now, again, a lot of this might not be as important because you obviously have demonstrated the ability to do these things to be allowed to, just by the virtue of the fact that you were successful in college football. But it's still good to know, right? You could say the same thing about speed or any other metric. If that was the case, you wouldn't measure anything. Height is not important. Weight is not important. Speed is not important. Agility is not important because you were able to do it in college. That's not true. It's still important. It's important, and the better you are at those things, the more likely you are to succeed, theoretically. So, yeah, I don't know why it would even be debatable that intelligence testing, if you want to debate what kind and in what scope and how much stock we put in it, fine. But to pretend it doesn't matter is nonsense. And yeah, it doesn't need to be that sensitive of a thing because you can have a high IQ and be a complete moron. You can be a piece of garbage. It doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you a wise person. It doesn't make you a knowledgeable person. You just have a computer upstairs between your ears that can comprehend and process information at a high level. That's it. Anyways, let's take a break. We'll come back and hear from Garrett in Southern Illinois. We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built-for-us. In the hobby, it's not easy being a fan of ripping packs or repacks. We get all hyped up thinking we're going to get some high-value Jordan Love card, but with zero transparency on available cards and hit rates, it's all just a shot in the dark. Until now, introducing slab packs from arenaclub.com, the only repack that provides real value, a complete view on all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Now when I buy slab packs on Arena Club, it finally feels like I know what I'm getting. And honestly, the best thing for me and my son is the fact that we're kind of novices into this. When I walk into a card shop with my son and a card says it costs $40, kind of just taking his word for it that that's a good value. So I appreciate the transparency on grading, as well as just getting excited about seeing what you could potentially get. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. Wow, that's crazy offer. 10% off a $400 slab pack. That's $40 right there. Anyways, that's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Okay, last call for the day.
Okay.
I thought I'd throw out an idea for the 2025 draft. I know Jersey Mike mentioned bringing a brick oven to cook pizzas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be driving my dad's mobile home up there to stay somewhere.
Nice.
So my idea was, if you don't mind having the guys that run your social media on Facebook start a Facebook page just for the 2025 draft, and guys that can comment on there and communicate, so we can kind of collaborate where we're going to be, hanging out and work out plans of, maybe we can at least, have a gathering of guys that are close in proximity and know who's all going to be showing up, and just everything all in one page so that we can all discuss it and make plans and have it user friendly for the majority of your listeners that, want to communicate. So if you can make that happen, Ryan, that would be great. And then after 2025 is over, then you can take it down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out.
Yeah. Or if you want, you could just head that up. Doesn't have to be any kind of a thing. I don't know. I mean, if you have a vision and a desire for that, you and the other people that really want to do it should do it. But the Facebook thing would be a me thing, and me is probably just not going to do that. So, but it's a good idea. And if you want to tackle it, go for it. If you don't, then I'm sure somebody else would be interested.
Ryan, what's up, man? Kyle from Madison, how are you?
What's up, Kyle?
I can tell and I know you have nothing to do with your ads. It's been well documented. You can tell the silly political season's upon us.
Oh, yeah.
I like to play the game where, I guess.
That is going to be a negative thing because people genuinely do get upset with me about the ads as though I have anything to do with it. So I'm sure as political season ramps up, people are going to be upset with me, either because they think that I'm involved in it directly or just because, regardless, shame on you for allowing this on your podcast. Whatever. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but just as a caveat, first of all, I don't give a crap. Go ahead and advertise if you expect me to go in and turn it down, no. Give me your money. Say what you want to say. Nobody cares anyways. Political ads are the dumbest thing in the world. How many people have ever changed their mind because of a political ad? If you have, I'm sorry, not very smart. It's just not. The people who hate the other person or trying to win political office are saying a bunch of stuff in a way to make you hate them. Do you think that that's maybe the best source to be listening to? I mean, I hate to undercut the ads on here, but let's just use our freaking brain here. They're dumb. Don't listen to any of them. It doesn't matter. I don't understand the point of it. I don't know.
The lobbying group that's doing the ad. I just heard an ad for the current administration's you have to have an EV vehicle or whatever, or you're in jail or whatever. Brought to you by the Petroleum Institute. It's well, the Petroleum Institute says so. It's like if there was a...
It's exactly my point. It's you cannot ever trust. It might be true. It might not. I don't know. But how can you trust the source? It's not a reliable source. If you actually want to learn about what's going on, there's a lot of ways that you can do that. But the number one rule is to find a reliable source. That would be the best thing that you could probably do to figure the situation out.
Come relax in Florida's freshwater streams and lakes, brought to you by the Carnivorous Crocodile Association. Like, oh, okay, that sounds legit. Anyway, that's a fun game you guys should try. Just guess the lobbyist first, regardless of your political persuasion. Just kind of try to guess the lobbyist first. Great. Can be modified into a drinking game also. I want to talk about the Goff contract. A lot of people are chiming in hard on their opinions as if they're capologists and as if, you know, they know the difference between like a $48 million Jordan Love contract and a $54 million contract. And if he gets over 50, it's outrageville. It's like, dude, sure. The truth of the matter is this. We got so lucky that Jordan Love did what he did in the second half of the season because let's be honest, the Packers, Love could have played significantly less good. And the Packers are still almost certainly signing him this year. Like, what choice do they have? I mean, really? I mean, what are they they're gonna just kick him to the curb and start over? No, they're not. So we're really lucky that A, he looked phenomenal for the second half of the year. And B, that it happened. You know, like it could have happened where Jordan Love pops off this year, which wouldn't be horrible, but it would have been a lot harder to deal with probably from a contract standpoint to let him get in that second year, or, you know, the second year of starting and then have him pop. It would have made things a little messier, but I don't know. I think people need to just chill out with, I'm hearing a lot of ultimatums about they better get him under this or that. Dude, just pay the guy up. All this bedwetting about will he continue to be good or not? Yeah, I get it, but we don't have a choice. Like, what he showed and for what it would require from a time standpoint to restart the organization, you just give Jordan Love the bag because he's far and away your best chance at a championship in the next 5 years. If you've got to throw everything out and restart, you ain't winning a championship. So it's like, just pay him. Pay him what he's probably going to want a 4 or 5 year deal so he can restructure and get another chance at that bag. But hell, I don't even care. Like, give him a 6-year deal. You know, that's just how it's going to be. And I'm for it. So I just want to chime in on that because people are bedwetting over nothing right now. So anyway, talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, people are going to be upset. Like I said, I do think that there are a lot of options. It's just a question of how can they come together and because on both sides there's questions, right? Like, it's not necessarily clear to me whether a long or short contract is beneficial to either side, right? I mean, generally, the team wants to give a super long contract because after 2, 3 years, 4 years, especially, the contract's worth jack squat, right? It's a paltry amount of money. But at the same time, there's less security in that for the team, and likewise for the player. But then on top of that, with the whole Jordan Love thing, you know, you if it's shorter, you can get a new bag, which is probably going to be a higher, not just overall, but as a percentage, which means, you know, sort of exponentially bigger. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of nuanced detail here that both sides need to come to the table, be honest about. And I think in both ways, it can be beneficial. The team, like I said, the team and Jordan Love might both want to do sort of a shorter contract, in which, you know, Jordan will get paid. So even if things don't super pan out, I mean, he's still going to get stupid amounts of money. But with the shorter contract, the Packers get more. First of all, probably, as I said, pay him less. Second of all, probably get a little bit more security in case it doesn't pan out. And then on Jordan's side, it's a way of saying, I understand your concerns, but we want to get paid. We want to get this done, and we're going to do that. And with a shorter contract, we're going to get paid an even higher number. You know, we're going to shoot to the top as opposed to being like the 5th highest or whatever stupid thing. We're going to be the top and the top of a higher pay scale. So I think something like that could get done, or they may agree to something else. You know, I don't know, but I don't think it's, you know, the Packers, their hands are tied. They have no options. Of course they do. And like I said, I think they hold the keys more than anybody else. Because if Jordan Love or his agent wanted to play hardball, which they don't, because the thought of him stepping foot on the field without a contract is the number one nuclear option that Gutekunst has. That hurts Jordan Love, not Gutekunst. You can play on this contract. Well, fine, then you're screwed after this. No, you're not. I'll just franchise tag you. So that's 2 years you got to play without a contract. And if you still don't want it, I can do it a second time. And that's 3 years I get you without a new contract. After that, yeah, my hands are kind of tied, but you're not going to do that. So this is absolutely not my hands are tied. But again, the Packers don't want that either. So it's just a matter of, yeah, it has to get done. Yes, it's going to be a lot of money. If you're upset about that, that's silly. Think of the alternative. Would it be better to not pay him? And if the whole thing is, well, no, you should pay him, but you should pay him like 35 because we don't know, that's never going to work. Because he will say no, and eventually, whenever it ends up being, which, by the way, if you want him to be super low, the franchise tag thing becomes a problem because the franchise tag is going to be as much or more, and then if you try to tag him a second time, it's going to be way higher than that. So that ain't going to work. That whole negotiating thing isn't going to work. But beyond that, when he leaves, somebody else is going to give him a ton of money. They're going to go on to have maybe one of the best quarterbacks in football because you wanted to pee your pants about $5-10 million or something ridiculous. And if it doesn't pan out, like, what's the big deal? Look at what happened with Aaron Rodgers. That was a disaster. We gave him a stupid amount of money that was just horrifically structured entirely to the benefit of Aaron Rodgers. The guy did not play well. We ended up trading him. We ate a ton of cap. It was horrific. And we immediately, through this disaster, in year one of this catastrophic disaster, with cap hell just everywhere, the Packers sail into the playoffs with the youngest team in football. Like, it's just, it's not going to be as devastating as everybody is going to try to make it out to be. Even if you pay him a bunch and it doesn't pan out, guess what? That happens all the time. You'll be fine. You'll get through it. It's okay. I mean, it's going to, the part that sucks isn't going to be the cap hit. The part that sucks is going to be the fact that Jordan Love didn't pan out. The contract is, it's not even secondary. It's so far down the list of things I don't give a crap about. Like, oh, I wish we had money. For what? We don't have a quarterback. What are you going to do? You're going to spend all that cap money to go out and get a super cool 32-year-old wide receiver? For what? There's nobody who's going to throw it to him. You got a quarterback, you pay a quarterback. All right, let's take our final break. We'll come back and hear from Kyle from Madison's biggest rival, Jersey Mike. Don't know why it's a rivalry, but it's a rivalry.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
512 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey, Ryan, it's Jersey Mike.
Hey.
So, I was talking to the old Padre, and, he told me something. He said, hey, for my birthday, I'd like to go to a Colts game this year. I said, hey, we went to one last year, but no problem, we'll go to one this year. But here's the deal. We're playing the Colts, so I'm like, let's...
Did you just become more Jersey? What happened? You must be sitting in a room with one of your Jersey friends or something. Like, yeah, I call into this show once in a while. Oh, yeah, pizza, okay. Am I wrong? He just went like hardcore Jersey there.
Let's go to that one, Instead of having to go to 2 games this year, we can go to 1.
Right.
And I can watch my team beat the shit out of yours.
Yeah.
And
I believe that now, but yeah.
I mean, that's... Anyway, so here's the deal. I was wondering, is anybody amongst the Packernet After Dark community... I know there was somebody talking about they had Airbnbs or something like that. For anybody in the area, I don't care if it's like 2 hours outside, I'm going to be driving up. So if it's 2 hours out of the way, I'm good. I'll drive 2 hours to get to the game. I've done that in Texas. But like, you have any availability / you want to give Jersey Mike, the Packernet After Dark family discount? It's like, I really would appreciate it. And then you get to meet me. Like, it'd be a double whammy. It'd be awesome. You get to meet your idol. Clearly a joke. Ryan, you're the guy. But yeah, and then I wanted to talk about something because you said you don't really fear the Colts. Okay. Hear me out, Ryan.
Okay.
The Colts are to be feared.
All right.
They have a fairly decent defense. I'm not going to say they're like the best, but the middle of the pack. They're good enough.
To be clear, we can sum this up real quick. It comes down to the quarterback, like every other team. If they don't have a quarterback, I will never be scared of them because I don't care. But go ahead.
They can get the job done. And that offense, low-key, man, they can do some real things. And if you go watch them play the Texans, I mean, you believe in the Texans, you got to believe in the Colts. Because the
Not
Colts
necessarily.
put, the hurt on the Texans in the beginning of the year. And I think the Texans won in the end of the year. But that, honestly, is because they had Minshew out there. They didn't have Richardson. Richardson was out. He went out in the game that I was at versus the Texans. I mean, that concussion really just put a damper on things. But Anthony Richardson, I like his feet. I like his eyes. I like his throwing. He's got accuracy. Sometimes he can have some issues, but I feel like, he's a young quarterback. He's going to get that dialed in. Especially now that he had the injury, he had some time to sit back, maybe learn a little. So we gotta respect this Colts team. They're a good team, even though they don't have a bunch of guys. They're a good team. But hey, maybe you can disagree with me on that. So Pack, go.
Well, look, if you tell me that Richardson takes a C.J. Stroud kind of a jump, then I would say they're probably going to go to the playoffs. They have enough pieces around them to do that. Now, are they going to be better than, the Texans? Are they going to be a legit Super Bowl contender? I don't think so. They do have a better offensive line. The wide receivers aren't as good. The defense really isn't that scary to me. They got a couple pieces up front, but other than that, I'm not too worried about it. And their receivers, they got like two number twos, more or less, with Pittman and Josh Downs, pending jumps because they're a relatively young group, including Pierce. But, they got beat by the Texans 23-19. Playing a division rival close is a thing that happens all the time when really bad teams play another division rival close. The only time that doesn't happen is Packers-Bears. But, I mean, it's a very common thing, and they lost. The week before that, they barely beat the Raiders. The week before that, they got stomped out 29-10 by the Falcons. And, despite me saying that Richardson is the biggest question mark, they had the 28th ranked defense last year in points. So even if Richardson is very good, again, do they get into the playoffs? Probably. Are they going to be good enough to kind of sail through it? Meh. But that assumes Richardson is significantly better than what we saw from him last year, which was very limited. But, we're talking 52 PFF grade level of competency. If that doesn't come way up, I ain't scared of the Colts. Any more than any other random team that could beat you, obviously.
Hi, Ryan. It's Randy from Minnesota.
Hey.
I was just listening to your description of quarterback rankings, and I had my own personal rant. The Bleacher Report, I believe it was, the top 10 quarterbacks who could, or people who could win the MVP this year. They had Caleb at number 10 and Jordan at number 8. I'm like, what the heck? So, and then I'm hearing everything that you're saying with the Bears are saying about, oh my God, he can throw a ball in the shorts. Wonderful. Fantastic. You go, guys.
That's amazing, right?
But, what I'm calling about is if you're a big, tough Bear fan and, the Bears are the monsters of Midway, you might want to rethink your quarterback situation. The dude has a pink iPhone. The dude paints his nails. And when something goes wrong, he cries to his mom. I mean, really? What the hell? But that's what you want to support? That's what you're happy about? Okay, go on, whatever. take off with that one, boys. I'll be happy with Jordan. And the music. Oh, my God, I had to tell you the story. The first time I heard Butt Liquor, it just happened perfect. We were listening to the podcast on the way to church on a Sunday morning. Got done with church, got in the truck, wanted to listen to the rest of the podcast, and I happened to have my mother-in-law also with me.
Oh, no.
And the Butt Liquor song came on. The look I got from my wife was, what the heck are you listening to? She used a little bit more descriptive language than that, but it was hilarious. I just died laughing, and I was trying to explain it to her. It didn't go over well. But anyway, keep up with the music. The Jersey Mike song was fantastic, along with Trucker Bob. Just keep it going. Loving it. Anyway, go Pack, go. Thanks for everything you do. Bye.
That is quite hilarious. I'm not going to lie. Sorry to your family and whatever distress I caused to your marriage. And yeah, look, as far as the Caleb thing, in 2024, it's taboo to make fun of a guy for that. Like, how dare you? He's allowed to be effeminate. Like, okay, whatever. Here's the thing, though. We can't simultaneously get excited about going out and getting these hard-hitting tough guys and, shaking this soft label, and at the same time say that what Caleb is doing has no impact whatsoever. Then what are we talking about? Listen, I'm sorry, but the culture that we live in and how we're supposed to pretend that reality exists, it doesn't exist on a football field. It doesn't. The whole well, that's not nice, and you, just the way that you're supposed to talk and act and carry yourself. If you were to forcibly impose that on a football team, your football team would suck. So I understand that it's taboo because on the podcast thing, we're kind of outside of the whole football field realm. We're not in a locker room. We're not in that setting. But I'm sorry, we're going to talk about reality. And when you've got a bunch of sort of slightly psychotic, hyper-masculine dudes that make their living by being extremely violent sociopaths, who might be very nice people, but on the football field, it's a little bit different. Yeah, dude, I'm sorry. But especially, can you imagine, for example, let's say you're Mike Daniels, and you're trying to demonstrate through sheer force of will, through your talk, through everything, how violent and tough you are. And he, to this day, talks about how annoyed he is with the fact that the defense he was on was kind of soft. Can you even imagine if people were throwing in his face the fact that his quarterback paints his nails? For him to have teammates that did that kind of stuff? Now, I don't think that phone was his, but it's just, you got to understand, that's going to get under their skin. And you can pretend that that's not a big deal, and shame on you for even looking at it or talking about it. I'm telling you what reality is. There are grown men in that locker room that are not going to be happy about it. It is going to have negative implications. Now, it doesn't have to. If he goes out and he carries himself and he dominates, it's like, oh, it's not the same era anymore. Bull crap. Who was it that said that the other day? That was Brandt a few months ago or whatever, talking about this. Like, oh, it's a different era and things like that are more okay now. It's like, that's not even the point. I'm not asking you, who you vote for and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about on a football field, how you conduct yourself. Again, off the field, a lot of these guys are really nice guys. I talked about that with like Rasul Douglas. Nicest guy in the world. On the football field, he's freaking crazy. So yeah, it sounds very unkind to bring these things up. And yeah, there is an element of just making fun of the guy, which I'm sorry if that hurts your sensibilities. But bottom line, do not talk to me about how excited you are about, the kinds of guys we're getting and the mentality they have and this toughness. And don't be sharing me clips of coaches giving these, angry speeches and screaming about going out and doing all this, that, and the other, and then say you're not allowed to talk about, this sort of general toughness or aggression or manliness or whatever. You want to go have that conversation with yourself, go have your conversation with yourself. But reality is reality. And the reality is when teammates on the Chicago Bears said before they even drafted Caleb, don't bring that Hollywood crap here, they meant it. And I don't care what they said after the fact, they still mean it. And so again, if he can go out there and tear it up and be a top 5 quarterback, he'll be able to kind of get away with whatever. But he's going to have to be a very different person. And if he continues to be that kind of guy that's going to go run and cry when things don't go well, that's going to be a very serious problem. And I promise you that the Bears locker room is not going to rally around him if he goes and finds his mom and starts crying after a playoff loss. They're not going to go over there and give him a big group hug and say, it's okay, buddy. They're going to sit there and say, this frickin' guy, I swear, whether you like it or not, that's the way it is.
All right, schedule day. So what do you think of this thing? I like their chances the first 4 weeks. I think the Packers, 3-1, 4-0. Don't love at the Rams there, week 5. Probably, I guess it's better than...
When was the last time the Rams were a problem for the Packers? The Rams, they can't do anything. The last time the Rams beat the Packers was 2018, and it was 29-27. In their last, since 2007, it was Packers win 33-14, Packers win 36-17, Packers win 24-3, Packers win 30-20, Packers win 24-10, Packers lose by 2, and then it's Packers win 32-18, 36-28, 24-12, and 20-3. They have eviscerated the Rams almost every time they've played them since 2007, with one loss that was a 2-point loss in 2018 when the Packers were just like at their lowest. So I get that they're technically a playoff team, but similar to how I will always be scared of the 49ers because it's the 49ers and there's just something freaking weird about it, the Rams are the team I am like the least scared of.
And then week 15, I'd like to get them a couple weeks earlier, but love that we're hosting the Texans.
Yes.
Love hosting the Dolphins on Thanksgiving.
Yep. 49ers.
And predictably finishing against the Bears at home. That works for me. I think
it's fantastic.
The ball game for the season is going to be decided, and this kind of fell nicely for us. We've got the week 10 bye, and then you've got kind of 2 4-game stretches to finish out the season where you come out of the bye at Chicago, then at the Niners, host the Dolphins on a short week for Thanksgiving, then play the following Thursday again against the Lions. That's just going to be weird, but then they get 10 days off before they finish up at Seattle, home to the Saints, at Minnesota, and home to the Bears. So it's like 2 little 4-game seasons there. I think it's going to decide things for them. So the bye and that little 10-day break, I think, kind of fell pretty nicely for us. Are we ever going to get a 9th home game, though? I mean, how many years have we been doing this? But we haven't had one yet, have we? I don't think so. This would have been a great year to have a 9th home game, but maybe I just don't know how that works. But it just seems like, shouldn't the odds say we get it like
didn't we get it last year?
I don't know. It seems like it's been a couple.
What happened last year?
Anyway, looking forward to your thoughts.
Oh, no, 2 years ago. Like the first year they did it, it must have been. I think 2022 we had 9. So it alternates. We get 9, and then in 2023 you get 8. So then 2024, 8. I don't know. Hold on. Oh, no, we do have 9. We have 9 home games. Colts, Vikings, Cardinals, Texans, Lions, 49ers, Dolphins, Saints, Bears. That's 9. So it's 2022, 2024, 2026. So even years will have 9 each year. And then it's also for the preseason. So you get 9 regular season games and 1 preseason. And then the next year it'll be 8 regular season games and 2 preseason games that you host. So that's why we have 2 away games in the preseason and 1 home game against the Baltimore Ravens. So then we have 9 regular season. Anyways, let's take a break. Or not a break. Let's get out of here. I'm going to go away. You guys have a good rest of your night. By the way, I'm not doing a song tonight. I'm trying to get caught up on some stuff. I'm behind. And I feel like some of the lack of podcasts sometimes has been because I'm trying to do too much, including spending like an hour trying to create these songs that are just not super necessary. So, yeah. I'll bring them back. Not tonight. Have a good night. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.